Hello, Uper Cyclist here, and today I'd like to go over my setup that I use with my panniers and how I pack and what I carry with me when I go on a bike tour. Now, I often said that I'm not going to make one of these videos, lay all my stuff out and show everybody what I put in my bags, and you see so many of those videos. But due to this pandemic, we're all stuck inside, and so here I am. I'm doing exactly what I said I wouldn't do. But hopefully, if you pick up some tips along the way, or see something that might spark your curiosity, it'll be worth it. So just going to do a quick overview of what I take with me on my trips and how I pack them in my panniers. So first, I'll start with the rear left panniers, and if you're curious about what pannier setup I do use, there's another video on my channel where I go over the panniers that I use, and also my handlebar bag too. So if you're curious about that, check it out. So we'll start out with the rear left pannier. And in my rear left pannier, I carry my sleeping bag, and depending on what time of the year I'm touring, I have two sleeping bags that I use. If I'm going in the summer where it's no chance of dropping below 40 degrees, I'll use my summer bag, and I'm currently using a Marmot Nano Wave 45, very lightweight synthetic bag, compacts. They give you a compression bag with this, and man, it compacts small. It's really very compact, so it doesn't take up much room at all. In the spring and fall, when you get colder temperatures, I'll switch over and use my Kelty Cosmic 20. It's a down bag, and obviously it's not going to pack down as small as my summer bag. It's a little loftier than that. They give you a stuff bag to put it in, but I don't like things to be that big, so I'll compact it down a little more before I put it in my panniers. So I do have a Sea to Summit compression bag, and since it's down, this is a dry bag. You don't want a down bag getting wet at all. So that's my sleeping bag system, and that goes in my rear left pannier. I also carry my tent stakes go in there, and this is where I carry all my tools as well. So just a quick show you quickly what I carry. A little bit of chain lube, and I keep that in a Ziploc bag because the last thing you want is to have this accidentally leak and get all over everything in your panniers. A rag, it's nice when you're changing tire or messing with your chain to have something to clean your hands off with. Patch kit. A chain link, quick connect chain link. Gorilla tape. That can be used in a variety of ways for fixing broken straps. It's always good to have some type of heavy-duty sticky tape with you. I always carry a few zip ties, and in this little prescription bottle I have the Fiber Fix emergency spoke. So if I break a spoke and it's a while before I can get to the next bike shop, I do have a couple of spare spokes on my particular bike, but it's probably just easier to use the Fiber Fix emergency spoke. It's a Kevlar cord that you use, and it'll get you to the next bike shop in a pinch. Couple of tire levers. Always carry, just in case your panniers, for some reason something breaks on your panniers. I've got some pipe clamps, just in case I need to be able to hold something onto my rack. A couple pipe clamps in there. Some extra screws, nuts and bolts that go with my panniers and my rack and fenders. Multi-tool. Of course, this is a bike multi-tool. It's pretty common. Most everybody has it. Spoke wrench. Another multi-tool, but this is one that has pliers, knife, scissors, things like that on it. Very compact. As I mentioned before, I have the quick link for the chain, but just in case, I always carry the chain tool with me as well. And that's the extent of my tools that I take with me on tour. Most of the time I'm touring in areas that if I needed a serious repair, I can make it to a bike shop, or else just kind of bail it and get home without too much damage. So if I was doing a cross-country tour, I might take some different things with me. And some people might think that's too much, but really it's not that bad. It fits into a small bag this size, so I don't think it's too bad. Of course, I carry a couple of spare tubes with me along with the patch kit. I also carry a little Allen wrench, and this goes with my panniers should I need to make some adjustments or tighten it. So it's always good to have that along with it. Last thing you want to be is on the road and not have a tool to work on your panniers if you need to. I always keep a couple, some line with me. I always keep this one here for clothesline. It's always good to be, when you get in camp, to be able to string a clothesline up between trees and get your clothes dried out. If you want to wash some clothes, then you can dry your clothes on the line. But really nice to have, and it doesn't take up much space. My panniers have lots of pockets, and things like that are no problem to fit in. I keep some parachute cord. I keep this for a couple of different reasons. I may use it with a tarp. If there's, if I get to camp and it's pouring rain and I need to set up my tent, a lot of times the first thing I'll do is string a tarp so I can get out of the rain and get the tent up, and then have a dry place to sit and cook and things like that. I don't like to cook in my tent, so and this also works as the food bag needs to be hung in when I'm in bear country, so I'll use this to hang my food bag as well at night. My tent footprint, we'll talk about the tent in a little bit. Goes in this bag, doesn't take up much space at all. Again, that's my compression bag for my sleeping bag. This is, I carry an extra dry bag. The reason I do that is because if it's a super rainy day, I carry my tent on the rack, top of the rack, so it's not in my panniers. So if it's raining, I'll use the waterproof bag for my tent. Otherwise, I'll just use a nylon bag and let it so it's breathable. I don't like to pack wet tents into a waterproof bag because they sit in there all day and can kind of get slimy. But if it's not raining, I pack my tent in a breathable bag, and that way it doesn't get nasty all day, and it can dry out a little bit at least. Okay, so that's pretty much what I carry in my left pannier. So let's move on to the right side. And as you can see, it looks like the right side I've got a lot more, but you have to remember the left side has the sleeping bag, and that takes up quite a bit of space. Depending on time of the year, little can of bug spray. It's always nice to have. I carry a little, looks like a transistor radio, but it's actually a weather radio. And most of my trips I can get, you know, some sort of reception. And I don't like to run my cell phone a lot. You know, I'm not always able to charge. So I kind of conserve my battery on my cell phone. So checking the weather on there isn't always an option, but I can check weather on here anytime. Nice thing to have. It's super light and compact. My rain gear, jacket, pants, and I also have a helmet cover. I cannot stand a wet head when I'm riding. Little water bag, it's a little nylon water bag. I use this sometimes for carrying water, or it also works for, I'll throw some dirty clothes in there and clean clothes sometimes. Water bucket. Folds down, and you got yourself a nice water bucket, and it slides right into one of the pockets in my pannier. Nice and flat, doesn't take up much room at all. Okay, you probably saw this big old thing, this mallet, and some would argue that it's unnecessary to take a mallet. In fact, I've seen videos of people chastising you for taking a mallet. This thing is light as a feather. Does it take up space? Yes, it does. But I've been in areas where I cannot get my tent stakes in. Yeah, you can find a rock or something to pound it in, but you know, I don't know how many times I've bloodied my knuckles, bent my stakes, and this is just a real nice thing to have. And it's, like I said, it's very light, and you can jam it in your pannier. It usually doesn't, you know, bother things too much by taking that. Okay, moving on. Going to my cook kit. I don't take a lot of cooking stuff. I do have this little Stanley cook kit. You know, it's what I boil water and cook a lot of my things on. And here it comes with a couple of mugs in there, and it's very compact. Folds down. It's got, you know, if you need to measure something, it's got the marks on there for you. I usually carry that in a bag like that. Outdoor Research makes a little bag you can use for carrying miscellaneous things. I have my spork in there, a couple spoons, and the bowls that I use are obviously small and collapsible. So that's all I use for my bowls. Again, you know, for cooking gear and cooking ware, you know, very minimal. You can use the smaller one as a cup. I carry a sponge and some camp soap to do a little cleaning when I need to. And that's all I keep in there. That's it for my cooking gear. Of course, I always take a little pack towel with me. I use that for drying dishes, washing my hands, showering, cleaning, everything, you name it. Okay, my stove. I use the MSR Pocket Rocket, and you know, it's very compact. Goes in this little plastic container, and very easy to set up. If you've probably seen these before, but yeah, just screws onto the fuel canister. It's propane. There's a couple different sizes of canisters you can get, and depending on the length of your trip, you'd want to take a canister that's maybe this size or this size, and it all fits in this little zip bag right here that protects your stove, and again, very compact. My clothes. For years I just threw my clothes in a big nylon bag and stuffed it in my panniers. And over the years I found that just wasn't working too well. So what I've decided to do now is use an old sleeping bag compression sack. So I'm going to stuff my clothes in here now and just compress it right down, because my clothes, believe it or not, if you're taking things like fleece jackets and pants to wear when you're off the bike, including your bike clothes and socks, and it can add up to a lot of space. So I'm going to compress it down, and that should help quite a bit. Now, will I have wrinkly clothes? Yes, I'll be walking around with wrinkly clothes, but you're on a bike trip, and really, seriously, who cares? So that's how I'm going to do my clothes now. All right, let's move on to the front panniers. And okay, let's move on to my front panniers. And in my front pannier, it doesn't look like I have a whole lot, and I don't really, but some of the things that I have in there, it tends to take up quite a bit of space. And right off the bat, you'll see this big empty bag. Well, that happens to be my food bag. And this thing at the start of a trip will be stuffed totally full. So my front panniers, that'll take up quite a bit of room there. So that's why I don't have a lot of other items. This is another Sea to Summit dry bag. It's a 13 liter. And the reason I use a dry bag is, if I have to hang my food at night to keep it away from bears or other animals, and it happens to rain, I really don't want to have a drenched food bag. So I use a dry bag. This is my pillow. I have it rolled up right now. And I know a lot of people don't take pillows. They just wad up their clothes and use that. Not for me. I need a decent pillow. I've tried many different types, the compact ones you can buy, and I just don't care for them. This one has a fleece cover, has a little bit of foam in there, and then inside is bladder, and you can blow some air in there. It's very comfortable, and it takes up a little space, but honestly, it squeezes down pretty good. I always toss my cap in here, and I always bring a waterproof cap, because if it happens to be raining, it's nice to have something that's keeping water off your head. So that's my front left pannier. Move over to the front right pannier, and I keep my sleeping pad in there. I am using a Climate Insulated Static V, and it's very compact, as you can see. Not much bigger than height-wise a water bottle, and not much wider, and it's not really that heavy. I'm really satisfied with it. I've had it for 3 years now and haven't had any issues, and I get a good night's sleep. I will take a sleeping bag liner with me, especially in the summertime. Well, actually in the fall too. I'll take a spring and fall. I'll take this as well. It just protects your sleeping bag. There's days when you're pretty grungy, and hopping in that sleeping bag is a lot easier to wash this when you get home than your entire sleeping bag. Sometimes washing your sleeping bag actually leads to disaster. Throw another pack towel in there. They're always handy to have. My toiletries. I won't go through that, but I carry the standard stuff like toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, razor, things like that. Very small bag. I don't overdo it. Just take what I need. And this is where I put that extra tarp. And it's all set up. If I needed to rig a tarp up real quick, it's already got the guy lines on it. Honestly, it doesn't take up that much space. I can roll it down. It's pretty tight, or in compact. So that's my front right pannier. My tent is a Marmot Limelight 2, and it weighs a little over 5 pounds. And a lot of bike tourers would tell me right off the bat that's too heavy of a tent to be taking on a bike tour. You don't need a two-person. But to be honest, I just prefer it, and And I don't disagree with you that it is a little on the heavy side, but honestly, I don't care. I like the space, I like the size of the tent, and honestly, I'm not carrying tons of weight in my panniers overall, so I can actually afford to take this weight. The only drawback of this tent, and I'm going to be making a call to Marmot right after this video to hopefully remedy that. Their poles, the brow pole on the tent is too long to fit in my panniers. So I'm going to see if I can get one that's in 3 segments instead of 2 like it comes. I've been told you can, and then I'll be able to fit my poles in one of my panniers, my rear panniers preferably. And then the only thing on the back of my top of my rack will be the tent. Of course, the straps to hold it down as well. There, so that's what's in my panniers. Now quickly, I'll move on to my handlebar bag. And this is where I keep things that I want to have right at hand. You know, I'll have my cell phone, obviously, is going to go in there. My bike lock. My seat cover. I use a leather Brooks saddle, so when I get off the bike on rainy days, I immediately put this on. Just camera things. I have a little mini tripod. I'll keep my camera gear in there, my GoPro, things like that. I always keep some sanitary wipes, some wipes, some hand sanitizing wipes. Of course, I have a mat pocket on the top. I'm old school and I like to have a paper map with me. In the top, I'll keep things like, you know, a pencil, you know, or a pen or something like that. When you get to a campsite, a lot of times you need to be able to fill out the form, and if you don't have anything to write with, that's a little bit of a problem. Some dog halt. If you ever get chased by a dog and they're persistent, you might want to give them a spray with this, but honestly, I've had this clipped on here, never used it. Hopefully I never will have to. So that's my handlebar bag, and until last year I never considered carrying a water filter, but last year I ran out of water on a very hot day, and I was in a stretch of a long road where there was no water source that I could get, and clean water source, or there actually was no houses or anything, or no towns, and no place to get any water at all. But there was plenty of water because I was riding along Lake Superior, and it would have been nice if I could have just went down to the lake and filtered some water and filled my water bottles, but I didn't have that option. So I'm going to carry a small water filter and see how that works. If they're on a trip where I'm pretty sure I'm going to be, you know, have access to water and don't need to worry about that, obviously I'll leave it home, but in some places it might be preferable to have a water filter. Okay, so that's my setup pretty much. You know, I'll shift things around, occasionally do some things a little different here and there, but overall that's pretty much what I take with me on my tours. I haven't done any like extensive, you know, year-long trips or anything like that. Most of my trips are week-long trips, somewhere in that ballpark. But you know, if you want to carry some things that I didn't include and they're a little heavier, then more power to you. That's the great thing about bike touring. You know, it's your bike tour. You can do what you want. If you want to go the ultralight route, that's great too. And I obviously can see the benefits to that as well. But I think I'm somewhere in the middle there, and I don't think I overpack, but I'd be curious to hear your comments about any of the items that I carry with me or any of the products that I use. So leave a comment, and if you like this video, please like it. And I certainly hope you're all staying safe throughout this pandemic. I know we're all stuck inside, and we're doing what we can do to get through this. I am getting out on the bike a little bit here, but unfortunately in Upper Michigan there's still quite a bit of snow on the ground, and it gets pretty darn cold some days. But when it gets nice, I get out the bike and get out for a ride. And I hope you are as well. So stay safe, everybody.